Get over here.
All right, guys, I'm gonna try to move this one speaker.
I got it in like that.
I hope that helps. It should. Hopefully it gets more sound than last time. All right, anyways, I'd like to thank our guests, our county mayor, our commissioners, our past mayors, county mayors that is, and our mayors of Tiptonville and Richmond. And I'd like to thank everybody who worked to put this all together this evening on pretty short notice at that. So I'm going to explain the purpose of this meeting tonight is to go over what we have heard online and the rumors and how we've heard about it, about the budget. And then there's also been a page put out there about some past audits that are going to be addressed, or I'm going to ask a question on that. The rules of this are going to be like this. There's not going to be any name calling. We're not going to be directing any off-colored remarks. They're not going to be permitted in this room. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm running this meeting, and if anybody gets boisterous, loud, or obnoxious, I may ask you to leave. And that's just how I'm going to run this, because I want this to be orderly, and I want everybody's questions answered that has one. And for that reason, I've already got a question.
It's not a question. We cannot understand what you're saying back here. It's more mumble than what we can hear.
Okay. I'm going to try my best, but I'm going to do what I can with what I have.
Understand?
If I take my mouth away from the
need to
mic,
turn the
you
bass
can't hear me
down.
at all.
I
But
believe
anyways,
so. Lisa was on my equipment.
like I said, we're not going to do any off-color remarks. And the meeting is informed, guys, of what's transpired in the last few days, and possibly since there was a meeting this morning, the last few hours. We're going to ask questions of the board members in a respectable manner when you ask a question. I don't want no darts being thrown here. If you ask a question, ask it in a informational type manner. All right? And I'm going to start off this evening with about 5 questions. And I've asked these questions, or picked these questions, because of the things I've heard from the citizens and some input I've got from other places. So these 5 questions, I'm hoping answer some of the questions you have, so that when we get to the question and answer period, it can be short. Because as you can tell, it's very hot, humid in here. I don't want this meeting, this film, to last any longer than it has to, so we can all get out to some air conditioning. And then after I ask the question, then we get our answers from there. If you have a question that comes into mind that is not answered, hold that question, please, for the question and answer period, because at the end of my 5 questions, it's going to be open to y'all to ask questions, and you're going to have a 2-minute time limit on your questions, and we ask the board, whoever answers the questions, to try to do it as expeditiously as possible. So with that in mind, I'm going to start off. Most of these questions are going to probably be directed to Dana Cook, our county mayor, and anybody in the commissioners and past mayors that want to expand or have a rebuttal question to it. I'll give you a minute to do that, but let's keep it as short as possible. All right, number 1 question that has been asked. We hear that the proposed tax rate was to be $1.23 per thousand in property taxes. Now, I know that that's been reevaluated, and it's not actually going to be that high. But it was, when it came across the first time, it was shocked everybody as pretty significant. So the question is explain what has transpired to date and what cuts were made, if any, and explain to us what's going on. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 2. That already got it? Yeah, I got top of the last.
Okay. Thank you all for your concern. I appreciate everybody in Lake County. This is a very important topic for everybody, whole county. Nothing wrong with asking questions, nothing wrong with trying to find out what you need. And he asked a question about the $1.23 per thousand of property taxes. Actually, I don't know if 123, I mean, it's 114 is what was brought up. The way that they look at tax rates is you take your last year's budget, you look at what you spent, try to get your revenues, you try to project what your revenues are going to be, you project what you think that your expenses are going to be, and you put them together and try to keep your expenses as low as you can, but it's also a good idea to have a little bump in there because things happen you don't know about. What was brought up when we first put this together was $1.14 instead of $1.23. Now, I will say this, to everybody in this room, nobody in the county court, nobody in the courthouse, nobody wants to have a high tax rate. I would be tickled if we could leave it exactly where it is. Don't think that's going to happen. It'd be great if there's somewhere in between that's even remotely good for everybody. That's what we're trying to do. One of the problems we have is we look at where our money comes from. You got some federal money that we come from. We get some state money we come from. There's a few other sources. And the bad thing besides that is we have to come up with it locally. Unfortunately, our tax base is not what it ought to be. Where the bill is, at some point I can go over some of the figures with our tax base, which makes it harder for us to do. You want me to do that?
You can.
To get you an idea, and I'm not trying to be ugly with anything I say, we're just looking at some facts right here. In Obion County, which is close to us, a penny on a tax rate in Obion County brings in $85,000. Dyer County, a neighbor to the other side, a penny on a tax rate brings in $78,000. In Lake County, a penny on a tax rate brings in $9,178. So you see how low our tax base is to start with. I'm not being critical, believe me. The agricultural committee, I promise you, I love to eat as much as anybody. And I am not criticizing that. We have a tremendous amount of ground, which is greenbelt, which is a lower tax rate. And that's just the way it is. State mandates greenbelt, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. The state owns a lot of property. They own 21,000 acres in the county. Federal government, between the state and federal, they own 21,000. So we're basically 80% of our total acreage in Lake County is either zero tax with the state and federal or greenbelt, which is agricultural. Again, that's fine. We can't help that. And we're glad we have everything we have. But 80% of our tax base is in a very limited basis. So that leaves 20% to try to make up as much room as possible. We don't want to make it any harder than possible. Nobody, previous mayors, previous administrations, this board, previous boards, I think it's fair to say nobody wants to raise taxes, period. But if you do, you don't want to raise them any higher than you have to. Our problem is we got to try to find somewhere in between with what we've got to work with.
All right, thank you. All right, now, in this budget that y'all are working on, I know that CTAS has played a part in developing this budget. So if you would, in just a short, you don't even have to get up because this is going to be short. Explain to everybody what CTAS is. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you the word. the County Technical Assistance Service. It's called CTAS, and they work with the counties. So,
CTAS is a very important thing. Some of you may be involved with cities. There's MTAS, which is municipal. Basically the same thing on a city basis versus a county basis. And CTAS, they have a person who works this area. He's worked with Macy, worked with Denny, worked with several counties in the area here. He's very helpful to us. What they do is they keep us up to date on situations out there, on possible revenue sources, what we have to have that's mandated. They keep us up on that, where we can cut, where we can save, where we need to increase. As I said, we put our budget together. We look at our figures, we put it together, and they refine it. They look at it. And they are the ones who try to come up with a total that we can accept or we don't have to. The CTAS is very helpful. They've got attorneys, they've got accountants, and that's what they do for counties. They assist them. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I have a question. My name is Patricia Davis, and I do live here in Ridgely.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, Lake County is the third poorest county in the entire state of Tennessee, but yet we pay the third highest tax rate on our properties.
Right.
Can you explain why?
Because we have a very limited tax rate. We have very few people. I'll bring that up. I thank you for bringing that up. 1950, Lake County had 11,655 people. In 2020, Lake County's got 7,005, which is including the prison. So you see, the demographics of Lake County are going downhill on a traditional basis. This didn't just happen in the last month. This has been coming over and over and over. Previous governments have had to work with it, try to do their best. We are now the 5th least populated by the statutes I have. You may have something more.
I didn't look at the population rates. I just looked at county as far as wealth and tax rates.
Yes.
And the fact our wheel tax is higher than anybody else in the state of Tennessee.
We have the highest tax rate in the state of Tennessee, and that's one of the reasons we don't want to go up on it.
But yet 20% of the people are the ones who are expected to pay it?
What are our options? Let me ask you that.
How about business?
Okay, there you go. Business. Your question about businesses. I've done a head count. I may be off a little bit, but I started the first business in Lake County as I came through the Dyer County line was the Hobie's restaurant bar right there. And I went all the way up and I went out there. I may be a touch off, I may have missed some, but we're in the neighborhood of 50 businesses in Lake County where you can walk in the door, buy a hat from Johnny and have to pay tax on it. We have very limited places where sales tax is produced, okay? We don't have many of those. One of the things, people on this board, one of the things that we've got various people here, we've got Chamber of Commerce, we've got so many different people in Lake County who are trying to make contacts with folks. We talk to people all the time. I've talked to Toyota, I've talked to Ford, I've talked to Chevrolet, I've talked to Hyundai. Not just me. These mayors did the same thing before me. Our problem with Lake County, to be attractive enough to get people to come, number one, they need the numbers of people. They'd love to have a four-lane highway. They would love to have a reason why we should invest in Lake County. Right now, we don't have a lot to offer as far as economics. We got a great community. We feel safe. When I go out at night, when I go walking in the morning, I don't feel like I'm going to get hit in the head. When I go to the grocery store, everybody I see, they know my name and I know them. We have a great way of life. We enjoy it, but our problem, we have to pay for it with the fact that we don't have a lot of amenities that other people do. And nobody would love to see Walmart or I talk to people who own McDonald's. They're not coming. You can ask, we try. These people do the same thing. If I was in a business situation, they're going to look at all the demographics, they're going to look at tax rates, they're going to look at property costs, they're going to look at numbers, and they're going to say, is it worth me coming to Lake County? We all want them to come to Lake County, but we've got to try to make it as attractive as possible. Tax rates going up is not good, and we know that. I don't want to do that, but that's where we need everybody. If you know anybody, Economic Community Development, Nashville, they have got great contacts. They talk to people a lot bigger than we do. They know, TVA, it's like with Sonoma. Sonoma came because of TVA. It's a great situation, but our problem with Sonoma is not gonna be online until 2025. They will be providing a tremendous amount of tax for us, but we can't count on it until they get in operation until 2025. We've got the solar farm, which is a project they've been working on for a long time. We want it to work, but if it comes in, it's gonna be Q4 at the least. So we got some things that can help with the tax rates. They're on the horizon. Sonoma is already doing it, and the solar plant, they've already built they've already built the transfer station, but they're not here yet. So this is our problem right now. We would love for them to come in, yes. That's why we don't want them, but that's a problem we have. We have such a limited base. And I would love to see tons of this.
All right. Once again, try to hold your questions, because I know the mayor will get up here and stand and talk, and he will answer everything that anybody wants to ask. But every question that just got asked was a good question and should be asked. Okay, the state mandates, the state mandates raises to elected officials. These mandated raises must be made and cannot be opted out of. I've heard this two different ways. I talked to Rusty Girls this morning, and I also talked to the person who works in his office. And there is no way you can opt out of a state mandated raise. The reason for that being is it takes the politics out of it. In other words, if say Brian Avery arrests somebody, say Tony Bardry's son. All right, Tony Bardry gets mad, he's on the board, and he says next time raises come around, sheriff ain't getting no money because he messed with my son. The state mandates these raises to keep the politicalization out of the mandated raises. So I'm gonna answer my own question there a little bit, because I had that explained to me earlier by state officials. So now that I did that, let me get back online here with where I want to be. So my next question would be, when these mandated raises that we have to pay, when these mandated raises are approved by the county, and our budget continually goes up, but we still have a limited resource coming in, at some point, the county is gonna have to start touching something if we don't get factories or something else going. So my next question would be, do we plan to cut any of the deputy positions out of the courthouse? Do we plan to make any cuts to save money? And I know that the school system is sort of a separate entity, but would there possibly be any cuts in the school system, not in teachers, but in administration type jobs, and or anywhere elsewhere? Would we possibly make any cuts to offset these oncoming raises in the future?
As far as getting rid of the assistants, put it to you like this. Right now, we can't. Don't have any intention to now, to the best of my knowledge. There are certain positions in the county government that are mandated, not for the salaries, but mandated to have positions of help. Jackson has to have a helper. That's a state mandate. She has to have one in the trustee's office. Mallory does, because you've got lots of money going through. We are mandated with some to have other positions there. I'll give you an example. There's one of our people who is the register of deeds, and you all probably know it. I don't mean this in a bad way, not being to say anything that I shouldn't, but she had a stroke. If she didn't have someone to help in her office, they just shut the office down for a month. The assistants in the offices there are very, very important. These people know how important they are. Right now, I want to keep everybody.
Can the offices be consolidated?
There are 7 offices that are constitutionally mandated. Now, If you think you might could go through the legislature and somehow or another to get around it, I don't know that that could or could not happen, but there are constitutionally mandated offices that have to be provided right now. Now, again, who knows what's gonna happen somewhere down the road? I have no intentions of letting any one of our people go because they all work hard. You've got some offices that have more business than others. The board will make that decision. I don't know that it's gonna happen anytime soon. I don't know it'll ever happen. I don't know that, but I wouldn't advocate for that right now because everybody needs help. Nobody needs to be a one-man office. Nobody, in any position. That's my thoughts on that. Now, your second thought was on schools. Okay, on schools. In the budget, the county provides revenue only for the school. They have a school board, and we're required to provide a revenue to them. They do with it as their board sees fit, and the highway department is correct, Dean, they see, we provide them the revenue, and then they go from there, so.
The highway department, we only contribute about 15,000 a year.
Very
The
small.
rest of it comes from the state.
Right, the vast majority of that, and the majority of the, education part comes from the state. The county does not pay a lot on education in, percentage-wise, and they pay very little with the.
On a $10 million budget this year, the county's contribution is $864,000. The rest of it is state budget.
If y'all didn't hear what he said, this year, on a $10 million budget, the county's is $864,000, right? There you go.
All right, and the last and final question that I'm going to put out here, and the reason I'm asking this question is because it's buzzing up there in the air and people are discussing it. I don't think there's a single person in this room that even wants to think about this, but since it's being talked about, we're going to address it. If we find in the future that the county cannot stay solvent and is possibly going bankrupt, will we be informed by O'Brien or Dyer County? And like I said, I know that's not what anybody wants to hear, but I would like to hear that addressed by someone. Be it the county mayor, or past county mayor, or somebody.
They can do it every day. Okay. All right, now, if y'all want to address that too, feel free. Okay. Okay, what Macy is saying right here, if you all remember way back when, Lake County was part of O'Brien County. We were cut out of O'Brien County. As Macy said, we would have to go back to O'Brien County because that was the original mothership. So, you know, there may be some people who want to go to Dyer County, but I think that it looks like it would probably be O'Brien County. Number one, as Bill said, that is a worst case scenario that nobody in this room wants, particularly our board right now. I know that. We love Lake County. We don't want to be O'Brien County. We don't want to be Dyer County. We want to be Lake County. And I hope that's a situation that we never have to deal with. Then again, that's where you have a question, folks, which has been proposed to me. That's where we have a question. How much money are we willing to spend to stay Lake County? So that's something to think about. I don't want to spend any more than I have to. It's something we got to consider.
Pretty much, what you're saying is correct. This happened about 2016. We were pretty insolvent at that time. And I went to Benny McGuire and said, will you take us back in if it comes to it? And he said, not only no, but hell no. So you guys are not going to go become part of Levy County, no matter what they say. They don't want us because we, I think we're a burden and they're not going to take us.
And it was also brought to my attention that it would take a referendum and a vote by the county residents to make that actually happen anyways. Two-thirds would have to pass that. Now, will you certainly make? Speak loud.
What's gotta happen for that to happen? We gotta put it on the ballot, vote on it, and then the legislature put up where they want it. It won't be up to O'Brien County or Dyer County. They'll put Lake County.
What Tony Marjorie is saying is that if this were to happen, then O'Brien County wouldn't have any say in it, that it would come down from the state legislature, and if they deemed that we could no longer support ourselves, they would put us where they wanted, and neither, I guess, we would still have to have a referendum to vote, or would they just take it from us?
We'll have to vote, we'll have to be put on the ballot, if people vote, we don't want to pay any tax.
Okay.
We're trying to pay tax.
Okay, Tony says it would take a 2/3 vote and on a referendum and pass, and then the state would put us where they deemed us to go.
Majority vote. Yes.
Okay. So now, that was the last of my questions, and I'm going to open it up to the floor for anybody who has not had.
I'm wondering
You're on
if
the clock, but
anybody,
you missed it.
my name's Loretta Johnson, I own a house on Lake Street. And I'm just wondering if anybody is stopping and thinking about what's gonna happen to low-income homeowners and seniors that are living on fixed incomes, or other people renting properties, because if the taxes go up, their rent's gonna go up. Seniors are gonna lose their home. I might lose mine. 19 years of working for it, and I might lose my home. Elderly.
That is a very good question. Mayor, would you like to answer that, or who would like to answer it?
That is why, if there's anybody that has got a good suggestion to cut in a place that's feasible to cut, we're open to it. When the budget committee has met, they have not voted. The only vote that's gonna happen is when the full board votes, and they would love to know something that you guys want to cut. I don't know that they'll necessarily take all of the things that you ask them, but we need the input. If you got something that you think is up, because again, we do not want a $1.14 increase. We do not want it. I don't want it. They don't want it. None of us.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
You stated a while ago that there are 7 offices in the courthouse that are constitutionally mandated to be there.
Yes.
Are they constitutionally mandated to be an elected office?
They're all elected except the clerk.
Yeah, I mean, are they mandated to be an elected office? All 7 of them?
Well, with the exception of clerk and master, which is appointed by the chancellor. It is the only office that has a unique position. It is appointed by the chancellor. The others are all elected. That person, clerk and master position, serves like a 6-year term. The chancellor determines if they come back or not, but they get all of the perks, the benefits, and the rights of the other
So
county officials.
you're saying that the Tennessee state law requires for all 7 offices to be elected offices?
The one does not have to, but the others are elected.
All the other 7 does, right?
That's my knowledge, it is, isn't it, guys?
In other words, they can't be consolidated. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, if they can be consolidated, that has to be something that came out of the legislature. And I don't know if they're gonna start that with the county. We can't do that. The legislature has to do that. And I'll get to Tony in a second. Yeah.
Would there be an attorney here that could answer that question I asked? You think they are, but you're not sure?
The only one I see is Fred, but I don't, that's not gonna be something that they're gonna do.
That's not my specialty. I can tell you, you're probably right, legislature won't entertain that, but probably take us over to Pine County or the idea before they do anything else. But if they do it for one, then there's another county.
Let me get him, who was it that, Tony was pointing first, right? And I'll get you just a second. Tony.
You say it's mandated you gotta have these offices elected. Is that what you said?
They've always been elected, to the best of my knowledge, always been elected.
You know, I think the mandation says you gotta have that.
You gotta have that position.
It doesn't have to be, you can have 4 people over one office. Has anybody ever checked on that? See if you can combine the tax assessor and the recorder of deeds and all that, to see if one position, that one official run 2 or 3 other offices. I brought that up to you in the past, is that done? Nobody wants to address it because it's $90,000 somebody to, you know, that's the man, this time I tried to get him to solve it, because he does all this. He handles the deed, you know, these recession and policy, why can't you do all of that? Nobody wants to do it, so it's shutting out that position. But you still got that officer now, why is it mandated that you got to have a special $125,000 to $50,000 officer? He's gonna do the same job, and have two times on the door.
That was started a long time before we were here.
I know, but sometimes things get old and you can't. It can be changed.
Talk to the legislature on that.
No, we have to talk to our county officials.
It must be like
No.
Okay.
She just sent the question, and she has seat to ask, and they said they had.
They must be elected. I just asked. A person cannot hold multiple offices and be elected to take over multiple offices.
Hey,
Yeah.
question.
I'm Angela Agee, and I know that Lake County is a distressed county. Governor Lee.
She'll say it and then I'll repeat it. She says, I know that Governor Lee has declared this as a distressed county.
And is appropriating money for distressed counties. And I think the federal government is doing it as well. And my question to you is, how much has Lake County received, and are you currently actively seeking funds from the state and the federal government?
I talked to Rusty Grills as late as Saturday on that. They are trying to get it. Trying to see what they're, excuse me for my numbers, I'm trying to find my numbers.
All right, Billy Gale, what was your question while we're waiting for your answer? Wait a minute, Denise. Billy Gale, what was your question? Somebody better say that, because I can't hear. Get closer so I can hear you, please.
What's she saying?
Why only the property, don't, 19 or 20% people, on the property here might be raising their taxes. You got people disabled dying, like when water's light, and that's the doctor.
Billy Gale is stating that we have residents here that, you know, we're trying to tell them that are having trouble meeting their end, making ends meet, I showed that up. That are having to choose between light bills and medication, and if we raise these taxes, what kind of relief do we have coming for them? Is that what you're asking?
And that's why we don't want to do this amount. All this is a preliminary number. A preliminary number. Nothing is cast in stone. Believe me, I don't want, it's not cast in stone. Let me finish her question. Right now, the state, or just our general fund, the state's $750,580 is what they're giving us on our general fund right now. There's a meeting coming up next week in Murfreesboro. The governor's gonna be there. There's a meeting coming up in October that we're supposed to go to, discussing that very thing. There's a lot more they can do to give the little counties. Their problem, they can't just, as they told me, they can't just give you 50,000, you 50,000, her 100,000, her 100,000, it's random, because they're gonna go everywhere. They know our situation.
No, I thought they gave it regularly to the county to help with situations like this.
They haven't given us any yet.
What about the grants?
We try for grants. We do attempt to get grants. The problem we have with grants, some of them are matching grants. You can get, and that's one of the things, like a sidewalk grant or an ambulance grant or whatever kind of grant for whatever department. You can apply for it, and if you get it, the vast majority of them have a match. If there's a $500,000 grant, we gotta go over $100,000.
Who tried different grants?
Different people do. Northwest Development District does a lot of it. There's a place, Matty Cush, what's Matty Cush?
Community development partners.
Community Development Partners. There's different people that will write grants for us. Marshall is
I
a
read in the
grant for
newspaper that Governor Lee had money for distressed counties. I hope he didn't
We're trying. And that would be great, but we can't add it until we get, that's the problem, we can't put stuff in the budget that we don't know.
I see a lot of hands waving, but I see Denise credit first.
Ask a question 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know, it's your own probably fault.
Okay, Denise, well, ask your question.
My question is, how are the salaries of the people in the courthouse determined? I mean, you just got through saying, I think in the earlier questions, that our county's down to what, 6,000 people?
Less, well, 7,000, but then you got prison.
So let's at 7,000? How in the world can we pay the salaries of what they're getting as if they were in Memphis, Tennessee? Or Nashville, or Nashville?
Over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been impacted drastically from surrounding areas, from the prison, and from factories. Our base salary for our deputy clerks was $23,490, which is about $11.56. I can't talk over you guys if you keep talking. Our base was $23,490. We were losing people. The sheriff couldn't get deputies. We couldn't get anybody to fill our positions. So I had Danny Tippett go to surrounding areas, find out what deputies' pay were, what the deputy clerks' pays were, and we attempted to do what they call a step raise, so we could get more and more competitive to what surrounding counties are. What we did last year, the first year, was a $2,000 first year step raise, and then our plan was to go up $500 each year for the next 4 years to make that a total of what's that, $2,500, $4,500. Anyway, $4,000. Anyway, so that we could become more comparable to what the surrounding areas are. So right now, they are at 26,000 and change, which is, if you figure that out, that's about $13 an hour. They can drive right across to Obion County, get 20 bucks an hour plucking chicken hairs off of their butts. And here, you're taking care of a $20 million budget, and you're making $13 an hour. So we felt that we needed to get our employee at least comparable to what surrounding areas are. Now, with that being said, we have not done it this year, and I think probably, and I had some ideas on where we could cut, and one of my plans this year in my preliminary budget was to not give a raise this year, and not give travel pay, and I cut about $300,000 out of the budget, because I also know that we got a population of 7,000 people, we got 5,000 that are not in jail, and of those 5,000, we got about 22% that own land. And so that's 1,150 people trying to pay $2.3 million of property tax. You're right, it just does not make sense that we would make them pay an extra $1.25 for this tax rate.
One question, though, is not addressing their assistance, it's the elected officials.
Oh, that's strictly legislature. We tried to fight it back during COVID when they kept giving us a mandated increase. Oh yeah, by tabulation. This is the lowest amount. Like our county mayor position, 93,000. It's the lowest position. If you go to Shelby County or Davidson County like that, they're like 179. Oh, no, we agree. There were 17 of us county mayors that tried to petition the legislature to stop this crap, because we recognize, why should we make this kind of money when our people that we represent can just barely keep their lights on? And we totally get it, but they would not even entertain even listening to us. It's not gonna happen.
Maybe is there any COVID money left that could be used for part of this?
Well, we have, I think it's $232,000 we still have in COVID. I think there's another 50,000 coming, which would make 282,000. It's in what they call a 127 account, and
The only thing left with COVID is about 175,000, because they used part of the COVID money to fill in this year to help with it. Last year, the again, this is just the way it was, it tried to get a budget done, $680,000 in COVID money used to go in the general fund to help fund the county. So we've got about $175,000 left. There's something called the tribal fund, which we've already applied for, and they've already got the application, $50,000. We've already put it in the budget that we're getting it, because it's one of those things, if you apply for it, you get it. But that's it as far as COVID, nothing else.
Yeah, those days are coming.
They're gone, they're gone. One-time thing, they're gone.
And I believe he was referring to not the policeman picking the chickens. I think he was talking about what's in place.
That's, I understand what you're saying there, Bill.
All right, Danny, hold on, because I've had one other gentleman back here to wait for a while. All right, sir.
Respectfully, I think we all understand the situation that the county's in, that you guys are dealing with. What I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the county's in a death spiral. If we the taxpayers, we understand that we're all here together as a family, as a community. And if we cannot talk openly and matter of factly, there's no sense for any of us to be. We're in a death spiral, is the scenario that's being laid out. Am I wrong?
No.
We've
No, I
got
would not say that per se, because we have some things that are about to happen. If we can Band-Aid this up for another year or so, and after, I believe, and hear me out on this, y'all, because everybody that pays taxes next year, there's gonna be a reevaluation. Jacksonville could bounce on that or talk about that, but once this reevaluation goes through, and some of these properties are maybe undervalued, and some of you all might be getting hit again next year on taxes, and that includes me. I'm in this just with everybody else here, because, living in the city, we pay city and county taxes. But what I'm getting at is, once maybe this factory gets going and some of this other stuff happens, maybe in the near future, we could possibly cut these taxes, and that's what I'm understanding and what I'm hearing. But go ahead and finish.
What percentage of the county budget will be approved from this new factory coming in once they do get here in 2025? How much, what percentage of the budget are they gonna be accounting for?
All right, Danny, good. I'm sorry. Danny Johnston worked on that, and I think he would have those in.
I wish I had Danny Goodman's money.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was looking at him a minute.
Y'all, he's absolutely right. If we just hold on another 15 months. And here's the deal. Macy was here for 20 years, then I was here for 8 years. And what we did is we made do with what we had. And so we kept taxes at the very minimum. And we're not in no death spiral. All we gotta do is the money that's coming in is what we're gonna spend, and not come out and blow stuff clean out of the sky. So with that being said, in November, the solar project is starting on 1,400 acres. First thing that's gonna happen in November, they're gonna get a rollback of about $85,000 coming right into Danny's coffers. Then the next thing is, the next year, they'll be putting 300 people to work building this 177 megawatt, $200 million project. When it's completed at the end of next year, we'll start generating about $400,000 a year in property tax revenue. Then the second thing is, under Sonoma Global, they are under construction right now. Their plan is to be completed at the end of next year. That is going to be a $350 million project, going to put ultimately around 300 people to work, probably 468 on second phase. And not even counting the benefit of that and housing and then all of the restaurant increases and all that sort of thing. I'm just talking about property tax revenue. That's going to start at about 400,000, and then each year for the next 19 years it goes up 200,000 a year. So that in about 10 years, the county will be getting another $1.5 million a year, plus the $400,000 from this. So there's absolutely no reason we'll ever have to wait for his taxes again.
So they're gonna take a appropriate chunk out of the budget that will come back off of the property here.
And absolutely, no matter. You gotta imagine this though.
My question is, just talking about, not if we're raising property taxes and we have low emissions, it is what it is. That's not typically, historically, something that draws more property buyers and owners into this area. So all these jobs sound great, how much of that money is gonna be taking that salary they're making there back to their counties where they own property there?
You talking about the employees that are coming in?
Yeah.
Listen, the last 6 months.
I guess what I'm saying is, where is the attractiveness for those people to move here and not just work here and take their money back?
The
to their
base,
county?
the base wage on Sonoma Global is $67,000. I would drive in from Shelby County to get a $67,000 job.
Yes, sir, and that's my point.
The other thing.
That's my point, Kenny, is that doesn't help us. Because those people take that money back to Shelby County, they take it back to Ohio.
All right, hold up, Barnard, hold up. Let him answer the question, it's been clarified.
The other thing is, the last 6 months that I was in office, I had 20 homes, the largest home developer in the country, came to look in this area. They wanted to build 500 homes. Then there was a home company in Goodlettsville. They want to come, I think they were actually looking at Dr. Cox's land to build 350 homes on that. So it's coming. It just has to, stuff has to get here, and these people will have a place to come to this area. Now, with that being said, they're not gonna just stop taxation because they've got to put roads and gutters and sewers. LEVY can't do it all, you know, it's gonna be, have the county, do it too.
I guess what I'm saying, if we keep raising property taxes, typically that's not something that entices people to move.
No, I get that.
And I understand how, what the difficult situation we're in, that's why I'm saying, I mean, basically what I'm hearing is, yes, the county is in a death spiral, if we can't tax our way out of the hole we're in. Somewhere, if we can't, if we can't, you guys have to generate revenue to pay for the budget.
To me, we're not in the hole. The problem I see.
We are if you're asking for more money.
Every county asks for more money, just inflation makes you have to increase a little bit. Where I think the state made a mistake is they don't give a damn about Lake County, and they came through and said, okay, y'all need $2.3 million, let's raise taxes $1 a thing. Rather than sitting down with commissioners and saying, hey, listen, let's cut here, let's trim here. I just went through the budget real quickly and cut $300,000 out of it. And then we got $8.6 million in the bank, move a little bit of that around, put it in 101, which is our general fund, to get us through this 15 months, and then we're home free. So I say, I agree, I don't want to raise no dollar tax. I say just do a minimum, pay 10%.
There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna, Danny Goodman has been asking to say something, and I see you back there also, so I'm gonna take about 3 more questions, and we're gonna wrap this up before we all know, all right? No, Danny Goodman, yeah.
I wanted to answer a question and then ask a question. First of all, I wanted to answer the question about if we can have more than one person to run separate, one person to run multiple offices. You cannot do that. The Constitution requires separation of powers. You have to have the judicial branch, the executive branch, and the legislative branch. In Tennessee, about 50 years ago, we didn't have all these separate offices, and that was a problem because you didn't have separation of powers. So back in 1978, there was a constitutional amendment, Tennessee Constitution, that requires all of these offices that we have. And that's a part of the Constitution in Tennessee, and it cannot be changed without a constitutional amendment to change the entire state. And that's for separation of powers. I hope that answers the question. But
I hope everybody heard what Dan,
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, I hope everybody heard what you just said. In answer to the question earlier about combining offices, you cannot do it. Let's just make it that simple.
And then my question was, we are not the smallest county, but we have the highest tax rate. Have we looked at those other counties to see what they're doing so that they don't have to raise the tax rate as high as we do because they're actually smaller and have a smaller tax rate?
Here's a prime example of what's gonna happen this coming year. It looks like that our assessed valuation is gonna go up 40 to 60%. Our tax rate, if we go to 315, which I'm recommending, our tax rate will fall back to around 250 next year with a revenue neutral base. So, you know, you're not comparing apples for apples. The tax rate is strictly dependent on the assessed valuation. Does that make any sense to y'all?
Gentleman back there that was talking about the tax rate. I was county mayor for 3 years. When I had tax rate of $3. Okay? Before we went down in 2012 or 14, we had lowered it down to $2.11. So you can lower it down. If you get this tax money coming in, that means it needs to stay up that way all the time. You need to lower it.
Yeah.
That makes sense? We got, we have, over here, I got it right here. Okay. Okay, 97, the tax rate was $3. Okay, then we lowered it down, to 211 to 2011. We raised it a dime in 2012, and then it stayed that way to 2015, when Denny became, county mayor, and he raised it to 230. And that's the way they got it.
All your questions right there. We have not raised any taxes, and it's caught up with it. That's the bottom line. We want all these services, yet we don't have the money to pay for it. We do not want to cut nothing. We don't want to cut out our senior citizens, poor people enjoy that. We're not cutting it out. But we want all this stuff, but we don't want nothing to go up. But we're not looking at the overall picture. Next year, it's really gonna go up next year. When they estimate your house next year, it's gonna jump up $100,000 if you got anything. So you're gonna be paying double taxes next year. Because it's gonna go up.
And that's why I asked if we could
That's
rescind
what's gonna
that.
hurt.
In the 20 years, we raised tax by nickel, 1 cent a pound. So we struggle to keep it down. And that's the issue. The thing, there are things that just keep going up. Especially when the prosecution mandated, and then everything, the cost of living. So it's all going up. Try to save what we can.
I have a question.
So, okay.
Why does this 20% of the people that own homes, I live on Harrison Street, my name's Lexi Smith, why should we have to pay the 20% of the people that own the home, pay for all of this, when the people that don't own a home is not gonna pay nothing? That's not fair.
Well, the people that own
being
them, probably
punished for
got
owning a
that. The
home.
people that own them versus the people that rent. If somebody owns that home that somebody's renting, and their property taxes are gonna go up, which means in turn your rent's probably gonna go up if their property value taxes go up too much. But getting back to what Macy said, if I heard this correctly, we went for a long time,
they
and
gonna
the
do what
county
they
did
want
not
to.
raise taxes much. Now all of a sudden, that's caught up with us. So now we're gonna have to raise taxes, and next year, like I asked earlier, next year, we're gonna go through and reevaluate our properties. I know that there's homes around here that are, like they said, are gonna probably jump up. I predict mine's gonna jump up to 75,000. So, and I don't have that big of a home. So I can imagine there's some larger homes that are gonna take a substantial jump too. Those people are all of a sudden gonna go paying almost double what they're paying right now. And I can foresee that. But that's why I also asked if after this next year and the state mandated, I think, or the state comes in and reevaluates property values, that if we can rescind this rate that they're getting ready to put on us. And the answer to that, I believe, was yes. And it's shown in the past that they've taken the property taxes back down. So only one or two more, then we gotta get out of here, y'all. Back in the back, you've been waiting for a while.
I want to address something Denny said. You're talking about raising the tax base to $3 or whatever, in our county it says $1.50. Do you honestly think people are gonna live here and give up? No, they're gonna keep it staying dark. You said you could drive all the way from Memphis to work. That meant you, the way I took it, that meant you would live in Memphis and drive over here to make $67,000 a year.
Except you can build a house here for $80 to $100 a square foot, and it's $200 a square foot.
I understand that, but still, the house built here is worth half less than what it would be sitting in our, or Union City.
And with next year's reassessment, you throw a $200 million solar project in the assessed valuation.
It ain't happened yet, we've been talking about it forever, ain't nothing happened.
But you gotta keep the lights on this year. Once you get through this year, we got it made. Then you got
Every year,
I'm gonna get to you in 1 second, but we have an online question, and the question was, all right, we've got a question online, somebody has asked, I'm only taking one more question after this, and it's gonna be this gentleman. Anybody else, you need to come down to the Monday night meeting, or get to, with one of these gentlemen, so off to the side and talk to them. But anyway, the online question was, and I'll throw this out there, is what happens if, like the XL boat company that says they're gonna come here and promises, then all of a sudden they pull out and they don't do it?
they pulled out because some of the elected officials, it was coming here.
I wasn't here for that, so I can't answer any of that, but that was an online question. Anybody want to answer that? Danny?
Hey, Bill, I got one more question. Bill,
That was an $8 million project. The incentive package that I put together for this $8 million sales package was $7.2 million bucks. I could have built a damn boat factory with $800,000 bucks. And if that wasn't enough, then they came to our county commission meeting and asked for another $400,000 in cash. The poorest county in the dang state, they wanted another $400,000 in cash. And the county commission said no, and that's when they bailed and left.
That was exactly right. That was exactly to an online question.
wouldn't write a check.
Thank you, sir, for
I
the,
can guarantee you, I was involved in it. You said you would get $20,000 out of $376,000. I got the deal worked out, we didn't come up with $20,000 and we went to Combine County on Friday night. I called and told you what was happening.
as all the people want to speak, and then,
This deal with Excel, two people in this room right here didn't get the compliments that they should have had. We sat down and looked through it. And there was two people in this room that stepped forward and put up $225,000 of their own money to bring that boat factory in here. The problem was, and that was Vivian and Tony Barker.
Yep.
They didn't get the congratulations out of that, but they should have had me. But I'm gonna tell you, the next morning after they put the money in, yeah, but the next morning, Tony, we got the phone call, they wanted more money. That's all, it was all about the fact that, and then when we found out that the reason the man didn't show up for the, groundbreaking, he was in we thought Washington DC, he was in Washington State talking to another community that he was gonna build a boat factory. All they were wanting is money.
all right, one second, I've had this family trying to say something for half an hour. Yes, sir.
Talk about the solar farm and all this other stuff, let's just kind of check it for the hash, we're gonna have the same discussion in another 3 or 4 years, for any kind of stipulation, keep it happening in a certain time frame, because, you know, if this keeps happening, eventually I will go sell my damn house up there, tell everybody go along.
So you're saying the solar panel you're afraid is going to bring down your property value? Is that what you just said?
You gonna tax somebody out this town?
Nobody wants to live here.
Oh.
You're not gonna ever bring in anybody.
Well, and my only answer to that would be, and I'm only the moderator, all right? I'm not the one answering
I wouldn't
questions.
know if it's a stipulation or anything, but we can't do this for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. Are we gonna do the same thing again next year?
So what he's asking is if this solar farm don't take off, and all this don't take off, and our property values get up to close to $4, and I don't know what you're gonna end up raising it to, I know it's going up a little bit. But anyway, are we gonna tax are we gonna tax ourselves out of being able to sell properties at property value that we should get for? They're starting in November after the crops are off the field, and Kenny says they've already spent $17 million putting in the substation. The solar farm is coming, and therefore the revenue should be coming to offset, and maybe we can lower our property taxes over the next few years. And
I ain't lived in America since I was a kid, and I don't live in America now. I was a kid, you take over anything, you ain't got it. I wanna know if there's anything, like, just say 3 years, if there's any kind of stimulation, to stop this tax increase next year, the year after that, and the year after that.
I don't.
We'll have this conversation again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, until we can't even get rid of our property, because nobody will move here.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Because I said this meeting wasn't gonna last much more than an hour. But, we're getting close to the end, and I'm gonna call this. But before I do, Mr. Marjorie, I'm gonna let you have one more word to say. But, I'm gonna make a suggestion that y'all start talking to these gentlemen sitting up here at these tables in this front row, and they have monthly meetings, and they have other meetings that you're allowed to go to. I don't know if all committee meetings are open to the public, but I think generally they are. All meetings are open. You may not be able to put your 2 cents in there, because there's not a question and answer period there. However, you could be enlightened enough to then come up with a question and get on the agenda and speak at a monthly meeting, and have any question you would want to ask. But in lieu of that, I'm sure that any one of these gentlemen, you can get their phone number. It's up at the county courthouse. And if you have a question that you want to debate or banter back and forth with somebody, you know what I'm saying, this just isn't the time for it. But, Tony, what's your...
I'd like to ask, county mayor and the county commission. Pursue business to come here. What do they have on mind to bring in here and decide what TPA said here, what needed work on for 20 years?
Do we have anything else on the docket coming into the county that we're aware of that may be on that we may be looking at, maybe not on the books necessarily, but besides Chernobyl? Yeah, Chernobyl. I did not say Chernobyl, but anyway. But anyway, besides the solar,
What we know of right now, there are 3 prospects looking at a park and pool. There are 3. They're not very big prospects, but they are prospects that are looking very seriously at it. So we know we've got 3 that are fishing very hard right now. I know we got those. One thing we got that's in our favor is we have a lot of friends at ECD, Economic Community Development. They, TVA, they have us on the front burner. We've talked to folks in Ford. I hadn't gone up there. They're saying to go to Detroit. I didn't do that. But we talked to the Ford folks. Hopefully we can get some spinoff from the Blue Oval City. And they're saying that pretty much every county around is going to get something out of Blue Oval City. The good thing we do have out of that, if there is anything that is going to be transported by water, Lake County, the port at Lake County is the only one with a foreign trade zone. Even though they're close to Memphis, if they produce something in Blue Oval City and they want to ship it on water, they can't go through Shelby County. So there is some potential out there. It's not done, it's not cast in stone, but there is some potential. Hopefully the port will be a good asset.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for showing up. We're going to close this. And before, I have one question. Just with a raise of hands, I don't hear it to shout. But we put this together. We hope it was insightful for everybody. I hope you all learned something from it, got some information. And if we were to hold another one of these, maybe in some place with a little bit of air conditioning, would y'all be willing to participate if we were to do a town hall more often?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. And God bless you all. And have a safe trip home, I want that. Okay, then, one last thing.
I don't need my. I just wanna say one thing about the budget. I know we all saw it in the newspaper. That's the moment I found out what the tax rate was and what was going on. The full board has not met to debate that budget yet. The full board hadn't met together to discuss it. I went last Friday, I got the budget from the mayor's office. I don't know if it's the official version or not. I just got my county commission paperwork served to me by Deputy Wood, and there's no budget in there. So, we've been asked a lot of questions. Some of those were hard to answer because we don't have a lot of information. I know our budget committee worked hard and put some hours in getting everything together. But just know that the entire board has not approved or looked over the budget yet, and we're fixing to, I'd assume Monday night, we're gonna be able to debate it and hopefully come to a resolution as a group and get a finalization on that.
Thank you, Danny.
That's it, y'all. Have a good night.